morning. It is our hope that each of y'all are doing well. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your Friday morning with us. I think it's safe to say there's going to be some great and, of course, important discussion this morning. We're thrilled to have such a full room for this discussion. So this is, of course, the end of session legislative update. We're going to be talking about what the successes were, where some things that they want to tighten up for the next coming up session. And of course, I think we're going to address something with these maps in a little bit. You all understand this, but these men and women work tirelessly throughout the year to be the strongest advocates for our community and in the state. So we thank you for what you do when you take away time from your own businesses. Some of you are in retirement, and I think you're working harder now than you were before. And certainly the time it takes to be away from the family to advocate and see for growth for our community. We'd like to thank our sponsors today. The Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro is our presenting sponsor. Platinum sponsors 3HC. Thank you. And our sound sponsor is Crown Screening. And we are extremely, extremely grateful for your support. Mr. Hal Tanner III serves as the chairman of the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Committee and is a former board member with the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce. He is the president and publisher of the Goldsboro News Argus and has been incredibly instrumental in the preparation of today's event. I have once again strong-armed him to stand up here and serve as today's moderator. So if you will, please join me in welcoming Mr. Hal Tanner. Oh, while he's walking up here, I do want to make one announcement. Some of our elected officials and some of our community leaders may be sliding out a little early. I bring this up only to say thank you for what you're doing here, but also what you're going to. Seymour Johnson is celebrating the 75th anniversary, and there's a time capsule reveal, and we just couldn't get our schedules quite right. So we appreciate you all that took time to be here and that are going to be headed to base as well.
Good morning and welcome to the annual end of session legislative update breakfast. This annual event is a great opportunity to hear about all the really good things that our legislators are doing in Raleigh. I'd like to ask that all members of the Government Affairs Committee who are with us today to stand up and be recognized. Please remain standing. Bruce Gates, Chrissy Smith, Darrell Geddes, Dr. Ed Wilson, you can stand up now, Ed, Glenn Helms, Julie Daniels, Matt Whittle, and John Lyons, Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Many of you here today joined us for the annual Eggs and Issues Legislative Breakfast back in April, and we heard directly from your legislators on issues surrounding education, transportation, small business, Medicare, military, and more. We're going to allow an open dialogue amongst the panelists this morning, but we'll ensure that we will stay on time. If the remarks are kept under 3 minutes each, we should have time to take a few questions from the audience at the end. At the 3-minute time mark, a signal will be made. To kick things off, please share with us, gentlemen, what you feel were successes of the past session and areas in which you wish you had fleshed out differently. Don, if you wouldn't mind, would you start?
Well, Good morning. It's so good to see everybody, and thanks again for having us here for breakfast. As I look at the past session, I think we made tremendous progress in terms of, beginning to move in the right area. When we look at teacher pay, when we look at pay for our state employees, these are things that I think are essential. And we need to continue to make progress in these areas. When we talk about here in the county, I think we've made some tremendous strides as well. When we were able to secure stabilization funds right here in regards to education. Also, we've come, and this is the beauty of coming to these sessions, and I really highlight this. Do we have the Renew Life? Are they here? Okay. They're not here this morning. But over the years, We've heard a lot about TBI, traumatic brain injury, and it's coming out of these breakfasts and efforts that have come out, especially use TBI as an example, that we've been able to come as a delegation working together, and you actually see some efforts that are being made to advance TBI here with Renew Life. So I'm really delighted to see many of the things that came out of the session. Obviously, one thing that I think is important, raise the age. We saw that was embedded, included in the budget. North Carolina no longer is a holdout in the nation on this. We're now 50 in the nation that are being sensitive towards how we're treating young kids. So I put it this way, I think we had a good session, and I know there's still work to be done. I would like to see us, if there's anything, legal aid, that would be one area I would like to see us restore.
Senator Pate.
Good morning, and thank you very much for coming out today on a beautiful day like today. I'm sure you could have found something better to do than come out here and listen to us, but it's a wonderful opportunity for us as well to let you know some of the things that are going on in Raleigh and across the state, and some things that need further attention. And so that's the purpose of today's briefing. Don was referring to traumatic brain injury just now, and that is certainly something very important. We appreciate what the folks in this county are doing towards that. One of the few facilities, one of the few live-in facilities for people who suffer from TBI is located here in Goldsboro, and we're very grateful for that place to be here. But I was presented with this book, Is Your Head On Straight? Didn't any of the rest of you guys get this book? Maybe that was just intended for me, but seriously, it is a very serious piece of part of tells part of the problem on traumatic brain injury and some of the procedures that can be very effective for these people who suffer from this dreadful accident that they've had in their past that has caused their traumatic brain injury. And so we do need to pay attention to that. They say that back in the day that the accused were fed a hearty meal and then taken out to the gallows. So before we head out for the gallows, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the hearty meal they served us this morning. One other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and guys, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I had an urge to do this yesterday, and so redistricting is still, legislative redistricting is still on the agenda for us in Raleigh. And so I brought some maps with me today that are mounted back here behind me, and so after the formal part of all this is over, if you'd like to come up and see the maps, I'll be glad to spend some time with you. And what we have up here are the House maps for the current districts across the state, and also the Senate maps for the current district. These were passed in 2011, I believe, and these are the ones for which where your representative or senator lives now, and you can see that. And then the other two maps are the latest proposals that have been made, hopefully to satisfy the three-judge panel as far as districts would be redrawn to last us through the time of the next U.S. Census, which will be in 2021. I think the census will be in 2021. So these, if they are approved, and we don't know if they are going to be approved or not. We hope they are. So those are the things that and I guess is that a 3-minute signal? Or is that your telephone? Now might be a good time to silence your mobile devices. But I'll certainly hang around and try to explain to you as best I can where the districts are, where the proposed districts are, and where the ones that are now have been in effect since 2011. If any of the other members of the delegation would like to, I would be glad to have you here as well. But thank you very much for having us today. Look forward to the rest of the hour.
Representative Dixon, good morning.
Thank you. As always, it's a delightful experience to be here with you this morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thankful for your interest and your attention in your government, both local, state, and national. It would be nice if all of our communities had these types of forums from time to time to get together. My comments about this last session is that I believe that we continued to fulfill the promises that the current majority made in 2010 going forward, and that is to lower taxes, to decrease the regulatory burden, and to do those things which will boost the overall economics. You know, we can talk about a lot of different things, but really the vital and most important thing that the General Assembly does is set your tax rates. Take your money and then spend it. There's a lot of other issues that we can talk about, but the economy and the well-being of individual families, the well-being of the state, is the genesis for success in any area. We believe, some of us believe, that we have fulfilled to a large extent the promises made in 2010 concerning those areas. But I'm going to highlight 4 things relative to the economic environment. Right now, by many national publications, North Carolina is #1 state in the nation for starting a business. #1 in the nation for starting a business. North Carolina is the 5th best state for currently operating businesses, and these are based on total tax burden, available employment, et cetera, et cetera. So #1 for starting a business, #5 as far as best business climate in the nation. North Carolina is one of only 12 states with a unanimous AAA bond rating. And North Carolina's #5 for budget stability. That's important. As individual families and the stability that you have financially governs what we do in all areas. And I think that those statistics speak well for what has been done in the General Assembly, and I think that this past year was just a continuation of that. We have increased our rainy day fund, and government should not be in the saving business. We should not hoard your money, but having funds for emergencies and so forth. We have $1.8 billion in the rainy day fund, and we've done that while cutting taxes significantly, both individual and sales tax and corporate tax.
Good morning. I'm going to try to hit this pretty quick because I don't want to get Senator Pate's cell phone to ring at me. First of all, I think we had a good long session, and for the first time in a number of years, it was a very productive long session that stayed within the parameters of being an actual long session, so it didn't go into a longer session, so I was very happy with that one. One of the big items I thought was a success, along with what Representative Dixon mentioned, is that we actually rolled out a state budget on time. And I see Dr. Walker here. I don't see Dr. Dunsmore. I know our county commissioners are here, city officials. I know that our school system, everybody was really happy with that because that actually gave them an opportunity to get a little cushion there where they can plan to move forward with their budgets and get their individual budgets moving forward. Not only was it a on-time delivered budget, but over 70% of the members of the General Assembly actually voted for that budget. So it was a truly bipartisan budget, which I thought was a very good one for the state. When you narrow that down on successes, so how did that play out into Wayne County? First and foremost, if you didn't know, that we had a little issue where our county commissioners and our school board did the right things, and a little slip-up happened, and we had a $2 million hole in our education system that was going to have to be funded some way. And we were very happy that the General Assembly and the delegation up here worked to fill that $2 million hole so your property taxes would not increase here in the county. So I want to commend your school board, Dr. Dunsmore, and George Wood and the county commissioners and the delegation here for making that happen, because that was a big lift. Also, if you noticed, they're paving roads here in Wayne County. I believe the last statistic I saw said somewhere around 158 miles of roads here in Wayne County are actually being paved. That's due to the success of the funding put into transportation, and also looking at the cutting the transfer from the Highway Trust Fund we did a couple years ago. You've heard mentioned the traumatic brain injury and Renew Life. Working with the folks at Renew Life, seeing their needs, we were able actually to put in about $500,000 to Renew Life to help them upfit their center and work on some of the issues they have, so they can continue serving the population where that sponsor that is very needed there. Also, you roll into Hurricane Matthew, and we were actually able to add another additional $100 million, and $100 million, which totaled $300 million that the state put into disaster relief. A lot of that came here in Wayne County. I want to commend Representative Dixon and others who worked to secure funding for the Seven Springs Fire Department. Many of you know that was downhill and was underwater, and now they're going to be able to move that and serve the community there. So during a disaster, they actually have a headquarters there. So that was a really good deal there. You look into the county commissioners have been working to distribute the funding that's going out, do the RFPs for the stream cleanup. You'll see Stony Creek being cleaned up, especially through there around the hospital. If you notice that the flash flooding wiped that out and cut us off from the hospital. So a lot of good things have happened there. Also with the housing issues we've had here. We were able to get reappointments of Chuck Allen and Jeremiah Daniels to the State Military Affairs Committee. It's a big deal for Seymour Johnson. There's no two better advocates for Seymour Johnson on the state committee than those two gentlemen. Something that I thought that also in the northern part of the county, we've been working on this for years, but I just talked with Mayor Flowers back there, and it looks like we're finally on the right track with the sewer systems in Fremont and Eureka. Thank the Lord. That was a big deal. So those citizens needed that as well. I'll follow up with this, and I would like to take a little extra time if I could borrow some other time, because this is really important. One of the issues that was brought up during the session that I thought could have been handled a little different, and I want to commend the delegation and other folks, is during the budget process, the Friday before the Tuesday, the governor vetoed the budget. Information leaked out that the North Carolina Veterans Cemetery was not properly funded and was going to be closed. I've done this for 6 years now, played politics, and there's a lot of things you can play politics with. There's a lot of things we do play politics with. But the final resting place of our veterans is one that you do not play politics with, and I was very disappointed that politics got into that and became a focal point, because I'm looking around the room and I see a lot of veterans here. And when you look at what that cemetery and the people like Andy Anderson and others fought to bring that cemetery to Wayne County, for that to be a political football over a budget was sick. And I want to commend Senator Davis for the work that he did, and Senator Pate on the Senate side. For those who don't know, Senator Davis stepped up and actually ran an amendment to not approve funding, but to actually further clarify that the funding was there for that cemetery to stay open. Senator Davis took some heat. And just to tell you how icky it got, and I used the word icky, Senator Davis took a little heat from folks. And when the amendment passed the Senate, I was approached by folks in the administration to actually pull his amendment out and put my amendment in, so that way I could get the credit for it, because they were mad at Senator Davis for running that amendment. We don't play that here. This delegation works very well together. Not only did Senator Davis' amendment stay in the bill and pass, we included other language in another bill that also passed to ensure that cemetery stays open not only now but for the rest of the existence there. So when we can talk about partisan issues back and forth, but folks, that is how this delegation works. That is what this delegation stands for, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. So thank you to all the gentlemen up here that stood strong and made sure that cemetery stayed open. Thank you.
Representative Bell.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming out this morning. It's good to see so many of you out here on this foggy morning, because it wasn't as bad here as it was in Clinton as I left there coming this way. I'm going to try to just hit the main points here to answer the question that he posed. We did pass a budget. That is our main focus for going up there, is to have to write a biennial budget, and we have done that. The successes that I see were some funding for expansion of a rural broadband interest. We had some funding for addressing the opioid crisis, 1 year state employee pay raises, teacher pay raise for most, but not all teachers. So I want to make sure that is clear. All teachers did not get a pay raise. And the ways that we need to improve. We passed major tax cuts that mainly go to the very wealthy who disproportionately live in urban areas. Tax cuts come at the expense of middle-class services like public schools. So we're going to see that it did not help the public schools that much. We had to make some adjustments. Tax cuts prevent us from doing more rural economic development. We did only a fraction of what Governor Cooper asked for rural broadband and for North Carolina job-ready sites. It did not expand community college, or scholarships that we asked for. Budget does not have a pay raise for state employees at the second year, first 1 year. The budget gives no pay raise to senior and first-year teachers. It made all judicial elections in the state party elections, and I feel like judges need to be independent. We passed bill after bill making local elections partisan, and we need less partisanship in our government than what we have been experiencing. So that is, to me, is what our budget did for this past year.
Thank you, Representative Bell. Under the heading of foggy, I flew into Raleigh-Durham last night at 1:30 this morning, and I'm not 100%, hadn't had all my coffee yet, and I missed the names of 3 very active Government Affairs Committee members that are with us today. So if you'll please stand so you can be also recognized. Andy Anderson, Anthony Goodson, and Charles Gaylor. Let's give these gentlemen a round of applause. Sorry, gentlemen. Now on to the next question. What are you working on in the interim leading up to the May 2018 short session? Representative Bell, would you start us with this question?
Okay. I have received some information from some people in the Goldsboro, Wayne County area talking about getting more paving done in their subdivisions. So that is something I think we need to work on together with the county commissioners. And we mentioned it one time, but we need to do more work on that. And I also got some information that I'm going to be looking into it concerning young people who may be getting shot treatments or something like that at the mental health facilities. I don't know whether that's happening here or not, but it's one of the things that people ask us to look into, so I'm going to be checking on those kind of things. And well, right now we have been having some special sessions, as you've probably heard. I don't know how long that's going to last, but we said we got out of the long session early. We did, but we have been back in the session, and we are going back again October the 4th, I believe, for another session. So you can close out one, but then there's always a way that they've been extending it to make it longer than what, it just won't be all at one time, but we're still in session, so to speak. So we don't know what may come up in some of these special sessions. One important topic is changing the judicial districts lines. Currently, Wayne is in a judicial district with Greene and Lenore. Most people seem to be okay with that, and hopefully it won't change. But starting in 2018, the Republicans have made all judicial elections partisan in this state, even the local ones. And that is prompting a change in judicial lines, particularly in the large urban counties. And so we're going to be working on trying to get some of those things together. And like I said, we don't know exactly what will be coming up. And I know that in the education, the education systems are dealing with trying to deal with the changes that were made in the class sizes. You know, it's easy. Everybody agrees that we can. We need to have as few students as we can, teacher-pupil ratio. But what I think they fail to realize is that when you lower the sizes, you're going to need more teachers and you're going to need more classrooms. And people are having to deal with that issue at this time. And so hopefully I can help in that area.
I've actually been working on staying out of Raleigh. So it's a whole lot nicer to be home than it is in Raleigh. But during the interim, it's a time where you go and you meet with constituents and talk with community leaders and get a consensus on what's going on through your community so you can prepare for the short session. We've rolled out in the last week a number of interim committees. And so I don't have a list of those, but if you go to the NCLEG.net website, you can actually see a list of the joint oversight committees that have been rolled out where members will be working on issues such as economic development. You do have, I'm on lottery, emergency management. Representative Dixon's been on environmental committees there in the House, working on issues there. One of the issues I have been focused on and working on, and I see Adam Caldwell with Senator Tillis's office, who's been a part of working with us on this, is making sure that the funding that was put in place for Hurricane Matthew actually gets to the people that need it. Just doesn't stay there. When we went back and revisited how we were going to do the hurricane package for Matthew, we actually found hurricane money still left over from Hurricane Floyd that did not get out the door. And so working with agencies to make sure that those dollars are getting out. And, and Golden Leaf has been a good partner in making sure those dollars are getting out. And so we continue to work with them to do that as well. And I believe the Speaker is going to issue an oversight committee on that to make sure those funds are properly put in the right place. Continue to work on our military issues. I actually have a meeting this afternoon with the possibility of a project that could come here to our area that deals with our military. And for those of you that didn't know, I know a lot of folks on the Military Affairs Committee, it was announced this week or last week that the KC-46A, and everyone in this room needs an applause because that was a total community effort to do that. And that just adds to the stability of Seymour Johnson. So I've been working on those. I'm also reviewing bills that I had left over from the short session. Believe it or not every bill filed is a good bill, and some of them need to find a very dark closet or the bottom of a shredder. And so we're looking and going through those, and then Representative Bell mentioned the judicial issues. Looking there, I know we've had some issues in the budget with special judges. I've been meeting with our judges to talk about that and how we move forward there. So a lot moving on, but we'll take it day by day.
My main focus is in about 4 areas in the interim. First of all, we pass a 2-year budget, and one of the critical things that we should do in between the long and short session is to take a look at the budget that we passed, monitor how the revenue that we've projected comes in, and then assess whatever, if any, adjustments we make to the second year of the 2-year budget. Also, we've made a concerted effort. One of the things that business needs is certainty. If you tell businessmen, if you tell other people what the rules are, where the goal line is, then business can adapt. The thing that business cannot stand, that stifles and creates hindrances to continual economic growth is when government changes the goal line or when government changes the rules. And so we're in the process now of looking at how we can stabilize the rulemaking process that we go through. Thirdly, North Carolina is a right-to-work state. There's always pressure from outside groups outside of North Carolina that sees us as a golden opportunity to unionize. And one of our efforts in between the session is to make sure that we don't have an undue amount of pressure to force people in the workplace to unionize. One of the great things that happened in this past session, and we'll be monitoring it to see how it works, is we actually passed legislation to require the governor and other budget people to allocate 15% of your growth, 15% of the expected growth income into the savings reserve. That could produce tremendous financial stability for the state going forward. We don't need to spend all of our growth. So those are the 4 areas that I'm working on in the interim.
Well, these are very interesting times as we go back to Raleigh to see what can be done to improve our budget situation and the life of our state people, our citizens. I've been appointed to the Health and Human Services Oversight Committee for the interim term, and I'm very anxious to go ahead and get that started. Our first committee meeting is going to be on October 10th, so if you got anything along those lines, please let me know. There are some very serious things going on in health and human services at the state level and at the federal level that need to be looked at. We don't know what Washington is doing with the Affordable Care Act, or if they're going to be making changes, if they're going to let it go as it is, do away with it. We just don't know, and it's very hard for us to plan ahead if we don't get the lead from Washington along those lines. You've heard me speak at some of these previous days here for when we come and tell you what we think is going on about an opioid epidemic. Opioid epidemic across the United States is killing something like 90-some people per day due to drug overdoses across our nation. We have got to turn that around. We don't know where the problem is. It may be over prescribing painkillers to people who have legitimate needs for painkillers. It might, we just don't know where it's coming from, but it's ending up in the hands of people who do not need to be messing around with drugs. And then if they can't get the opioids, once they're hooked, they're going to go to heroin or whatever is available on the street, and it's going to kill them. And it is a real shame to have that going on. We have got to attack that and attack it in a big, big way without taking away people's freedoms and taking away their need of treatment for certain pains. But we have got to pay attention to that. Also, I can't put down the microphone without talking about Medicaid and some of the things that go on in our Medicaid program. You've heard me speak about this before. There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid program. We have got to investigate that and put a stop to that. You know, people who have the right to be treated properly for their illnesses, maybe they don't need to go to the emergency room at 2 o'clock in the morning to get some aspirin tablets or something of that nature. If they're going to the emergency room, they should really have an emergency situation, because it costs thousands of dollars for someone to go into the emergency room to hang around. I'm not belittling the fact that they are entitled to the medical care, but they need to have a primary care provider that they can go to during normal business hours and have their needs taken care of in that manner. So we're going to be looking at waste, fraud, and abuse. We should not have medical providers who have been dead for 5 years still filing bills, filing payment bills for people they supposedly are still seeing. And a lot of those folks are in their graves as well. And we should not be passing out money to these entities. And it's our job to ferret those out and see to it that it happens no more, because it's costing billions of dollars a year across the United States.
Senator Pate, just a follow-up question about what's the rough percentage Medicaid represents in the state budget every year? You've told us this audience that before, but it's an important number.
Well, let's see. They fund 35% of our Medicaid bill. The feds do, and I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 20% of our state budget goes towards Medicaid. It's the second largest appropriation we make. The first is education, and the second is for Medicaid.
Thank you. Senator Davis.
Thanks. In life, there are very few things I really think that at the end of the day that you're just so proud about and passionate about. And one of those for me in my life has not just been a father, but actually having a chance to serve our country. And one of the things I learned in my military career is the importance of giving it your all and having each other's back when it comes down to it. That was really critical in the military. And I just want to briefly, before I jump into the question, look everybody in the eyes here and say, Representative Bell, I appreciate you bringing that issue up with the cemetery. That should have never happened. Never happened. And in working with that, I went to Senator Pate. It was right there. And even after we cleared this through the Senate, there were still efforts, as Representative Bell said, to stop this. Went to Representative Bell, pulled him out, and you probably remember, out of a committee meeting to take this issue on. And I want you to know that Representative Bell had my back, but above all, he had the people of this community, our veterans and their families' backs. And John, I want to say thank you. Along the lines of military, two bills that I did work on and were also passed out of the last session, we're dealing with putting plans in place for a military strategic plan, which I truly believe, Chuck, that the Commission has done an excellent job of rolling out that strategic plan. We're still in the process now of moving forward with a strategic plan on how we're going to approach veterans services here in the state of North Carolina. In the midst of all the things we heard in session, I truly believe that these were some of the most substantial pieces of legislation, especially that came out of the session for Eastern North Carolina. Get rid of agriculture, Jimmy. Get rid of our military bases. Get rid of anything educationally related. I don't know if you'll have in Eastern North Carolina. So it's important for us to continue to position ourselves on these issues. And we moved forward on that legislation. I'll continue to see those efforts progress. One of the biggest things I'm interested in right now is seeing the progression of the Veterans Strategic Plan take effect. Another effort that I'll continue to reach out and work on, we had another bill that would expand coverage for wartime veterans, children. Very much committed to that bill. It made it to that last day, but it didn't make it out on that last day, so we want to see that forward. Just a couple other things I'll hit on. We have to get this global transport up and running, and through the efforts to get placed in the budget, planning dollars as well as marketing dollars, tremendous implications for Eastern North Carolina. A lot of tax dollars have been poured into this, and there are tremendous implications. We have to get it right. Outside of that, we'll continue to spend our efforts with recovery. I'm still dealing with a lot of issues from residents to businesses. I'm still trying to recover, and the unfortunate reality for us right now is with limited dollars, federal dollars, even as North Carolina's been trying to get more dollars, and now with Florida and Texas, it's just making it even more challenging for us. And I believe our collective task is going to have to keep this on the radar screen so that North Carolina residents are not left behind.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you can choose how, in what particular order you might want to address this issue. Senator Pate brought it up earlier. You've just completed the redistricting process. Please update us on the process and how the new district lines will affect the representation of Wayne County and the potential to affect other initiatives under which you're currently endeavoring. Any order.
We think that we have produced some very good redistricting maps. We also believe that that they'll be challenged in court, and it's very likely that that this will go all the way to the United States Supreme Court. But we believe we've got good maps. It's some pretty good changes, but I know everyone up here at this table, and I can't, there's not a single person up here that does not put the best interest of all of North Carolina citizens. There are things that are applicable in Wayne County that the same needs and benefits are true for Mecklenburg County. Economic stability, quality K-12 education, doing those things that foster good family relationship. A wise man once said, no success can compensate for failure in the family or in the home. And the government can do a lot, and we've got to continue to try to do a lot. But as the individual strength of our families change and ebb and flow, so goes the strength of the community or the nation. For my part, I had some folks call me because the new district that they've assigned to me takes me out of Wayne County. But the relationships and associations that I've made here, Wayne County will never lose my voice in the General Assembly, irregardless of what the district lines look like. There's a lot of talk about independent redistricting commissions. The best redistricting commission that exists is you, the voters. You, the voters. And the current majority in the General Assembly, if we don't behave ourselves and if we don't do things right, consistent with the majority, then we'll be voted out and sent home. But to think that you can put together a group of people that's going to somehow leave behind what their thoughts and feelings are about any issue is just absolutely impossible. And so I think that the way the forefathers have set it up is good enough, and I continue to support the manner in which we district now. So I've always tried to represent all the people of North Carolina, and I'll continue to do that.
I had a brainstorm a couple days ago, and I called up Kate, and I said, Kate, we have some maps that we could put together that might be beneficial to the audience here today. And so she graciously said, bring them on. And so that's what you see behind us up here. We have, if I can get up and walk over, and then you're invited, after the meeting is over here, you're invited to come up and take a look at them. This particular chart right here shows each senatorial district in the state as it now exists. That's the ones that we voted in 2012, I believe it was, 2011. So these districts have withstood for the past 8 or 9 years. And when you go to the polling place, these are the senatorial districts in which you live and in which we live. And even, well, this map does not have our names on here, but the print's kind of small. But anyhow, you can see District 5, for instance, or District 7 in the state senate. Over here is the latest plan that we have adopted that has been forwarded to the 3-judge panel, federal judges, and that is what we propose to put into effect if they approve it. And that will be the elections that will be held in 2018 and 2020. It'll be in accordance with this map. So you can look and see, if you know what district you're in now, you can look and see what changes, if any, were made, and so that you'll know what the responsibilities are as good citizens to get out and vote and know who your district, who's going to be running in your district, or at least who lives in your district. Over here, we have the same thing for the House, and back in after the last census was done, this was the plan that was forwarded and was approved, and it has been the ones that you react to in elections ever since 2011, and it's still in effect. This is the proposal that the House adopted, and in conjunction with what the Senate adopted, they both have been sent to the federal judge panel, and we're waiting for their decision as to whether or not they're going to let these districts stand or whether they're going to be redrawn again. So after our meeting is over, I invite you to come up and we'll do our best to explain how the Ouija board operated and what districts we have. And it is, it's going to make a difference in Wayne County. It really will, because there have been some major changes. So I'll be glad to brief those when you come up. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to be...
Just one thing, John. Let me thank Kate for changing things around so that we could get these maps up here and make it a very informative, I hope, to all of you.
I'm going to be brief in my redistricting comments, and I know you hear a politician say he's going to be brief, and you're like, yeah, he's going to speak too long. But I served as a vice chair on the redistricting committee and also was able to chair an off-site public input session. So my comments will be particularly pertaining to Wayne County, simply because any further comment in a pending court case. Frankly, I don't want to be speaking to the court, so I'm just going to be very limited on what I say. I actually have a map here of it goes into detail, and I'll have that out on the table here. You can look at it. Wayne County on the Senate side stays whole. Simply because, we have 50 senators and we have 120 House members, so Wayne County will actually have two House members. This is a more detailed map in that it breaks it down at street level, so you can actually see precinct, street level, et cetera, so you can see where you live. This panel is going to look different if the maps hold up. And the next time that we do this, probably coming into the after the short session, this panel is going to look different. Representative Bell is probably the smartest one out of all of us. He's retiring. And so there'll be an open seat there. Representative Representative Dixon will be serving a different area. Representative Davis will be serving a different area, even though him and I will still share Greene County. So Kate, these things are going to be a lot less entertaining, and it probably need to be a little shorter because there'll just be 3 of us up here. But while Wayne County does lose representation, and anytime you lose representation in the area, which we've mentioned many times before, with population trends, et cetera, it's going to continue to happen in eastern North Carolina and western North Carolina, simply because when you look at East 95, remember, they have more representation in Wake County and Mecklenburg County than we have in all of eastern North Carolina, and that's because of population demographics. So just understand that moving forward. But we will have new districts one way or the other, and look forward to discussing these with you after the meeting.
This is my 17th year in the legislature, and during that time, every time there's an election, I think my district has changed. And this time, it's changed so much. I think they just decided to, I think we may need to reach into Sampson County and find where Larry lives and put him in there, and then they drew my map completely. I mean, it's changed it all the way around. I lost all of Duplin County, and that is, where I went to school. I had a lot of strong base over there as far as politically. But I think we're always going to have this problem as long as we draw the maps the way we do them. It's a partisan thing, and I'm not saying that that it was done to draw me out literally, but if the Democrats were in charge, you would see different maps, and it would be probably to their advantage. That's just the way it's done, and I don't think we'll ever get it so everybody will be satisfied. So we probably could just do just as well if we drew a bunch of maps out and threw them up and let everybody reach in there and pull out one and see what was on it when it comes out, or let some kindergarten kids draw it or something. Would probably come out just about as well. But because I have never seen anything quite like it, and and I don't think it's going to change until we can find some kind of way to do it independently and in a nonpartisan basis. Because, if I had a chance to do it, I probably would try to get it so we'd have a Democrat majority. I would like to be the majority whip. It'll still be a bell, but I'd like to be one too. So that's just the way. That's just the way it goes.
That's what you did for 120 years.
Yeah, but anyway, I have enjoyed working with everybody in Wayne County, Duplin County, and Sampson County over the years. And even though I may be retiring, I still plan to be active as much as I can in the political process and doing what is good for people, especially in the areas of education, agriculture, and that kind of thing. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Representative Bell for his service to our state, to our children. Before even coming to the state, he was working tirelessly to help students, and he brought all of that knowledge base to the state of North Carolina. As it comes to redistricting, I want to tackle this on two fronts. I want to talk procedurally, and then I want to talk kind of personally. Procedurally, I don't know if it is, the answer is independent redistricting. My concern with independent redistricting is I still have not necessarily seen a process or a proposal that will not allow for some sort of political infiltration into that process. If you have that proposal, I would love to see it. And what I would be concerned about is masking something in the name of independent redistricting. Now, I can tell you what my concern is and what I would love to really see more support, and that is, it is absolutely ridiculous, and this is a new norm. You come in, you redraw maps, and then you litigate the maps for the next 10 years, millions and millions and millions of dollars later, taxpayer dollars, all of it going to attorneys to litigate these cases just to get back to another court case. Over a 10-year window, now guess what? It's time to redistrict again. This is true what I'm saying. When I arrived, we ran in 2007, went in 2008. I was voting on a case that came from 2000. It's 2017, and we're sitting here on this panel saying, oh, we're waiting on the judges. 17. Now from a case of 2010. This is a broken process that makes no sense, and I believe we could take a lot of this money and do a lot of other things with. And I think we need a process that we could at least agree, even if there's a partisan element, that they're constitutional maps. And now let's vote on what we would believe to be somehow constitutional maps. But this notion of going 10 years litigating and then coming back, by the time we get this settled, as Senator Pate said earlier, we're going right into another round of redistricting. So take a look at these maps today is what I'm saying, but in a few days they're going to change again. That's the truth. And you're going to pay millions of dollars for those changes. Now, on a personal note, I don't know exactly where these will go. I have some suspicion. And, you know, I can tell you, putting yourself in a mindset, Wayne County is pretty much like home for me. My father's family grew up here. Literally, I grew up walking the streets in here, and I mean the base, just all aspects of this community has influenced and shaped my life. It would be hard, I'm telling you, not to represent Wayne County. Wayne County gave me my start on the state level, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you for the support along the way. I just can't fathom the thought of not representing the community, and I will tell you, whatever happens here, as Representative Dixon said, you're going to always have a place in my heart, and we're going to always work hard for this community. The one thing I'm going to miss, because there's going to be a big change and shift in these breakfasts, is not coming to the breakfast. I'm going to miss Jimmy Dixon, y'all. So y'all may think we don't like each other, but actually Jimmy and I are really good friends, and he's a good man. And I did my research today because, I was thinking about that redistricting question, and I said, Jimmy always has a Chinese proverb. I don't know what it is about the House chairs of agriculture and Chinese proverbs, but here it is. I have a Chinese proverb. This is especially for you, Representative Dixon. Okay. A stellar horse, regardless, a stellar horse cannot undo words once they are uttered. Now, this is what I'm going to miss in summary. I'm going to miss all of these conversations, these discussions, but it's this element. The one time when Jimmy Dixon pulled out his notebook, and then he reared up and he looked at everybody and said, "I don't need a fact checker. I am a fact checker." I'm going to miss that. And I have one final proverb for you, Chinese proverb. In the flood of words uttered, surely one mistake. So we really appreciate this delegation being a part, and this is democracy. This is democracy at its best, y'all.
Like I said, this is going to be a little boring.
Yes. Representative Dixon, do you care to offer another proverb?
Go for it.
The greatest of all fallacies is to use two words when one would do. Amen.
Very good. Very good. Fantastic, gentlemen. That concludes our conversation this morning. To our elected officials, another great conversation. While some of you may disagree on important policy, budgetary, and other issues, did I miss something? There's some conversation. Kate, did I miss anything? Okay. We've been impressed that you can and do work together to continue to move this great state forward. We are proud to call you our senators and our representatives, even though your districts may be changing. Wayne County has open arms for you. It's a home for you. Please come and participate in these meetings in the future, at least in the audience. Maybe you can provide a different perspective when you do so. I'd like to encourage our members of the audience to reach out to these gentlemen. They do respond to your phone calls and your emails. They're very quick, And if possible, please visit the Capitol. Observe firsthand what they do. It's miraculous. It's not pretty, but they do get things done on our behalf, and we're very appreciative of all the things that you guys do. Likewise, gentlemen, the Chamber and its Government Affairs Committee wish to remain engaged on issues facing our community and the state. If there's anything we can do to help you, please reach out to us. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for the great work that they're doing in Raleigh and in their home district. Thank you, Kate.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up real quick because I know many of y'all want to take the opportunity to come up here and maybe ask some questions. But, gentlemen, thank you. We cannot say it enough. We appreciate you tremendously. And Hal, thank you. Hal texted me at about 10 o'clock last night and said, I'm at the airport in Chicago. I looked at my husband. I was like, what does that mean? He said, he going to be tired tomorrow. So, Hal, thank you so much. I do want to take one moment and ask that any members of the Board of Directors of the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce please stand and remain standing. We lost some of them. If y'all can stand up, and if Linda Murray can stand up, Laura's in the back of the room, and Janet's already headed back to the office. But our board members and our staff, I want y'all to look around and look at them. Make eye contact with you know them. If there are things that your chamber can be doing better, different, where we can be more effective for your businesses and your community, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to me, reach out to a staff member or one of these board members. We've got several board members that weren't able to be here today. We can connect you with them. We're gearing up for a really strong 2018. Our programming, our structure, everything that we do, it needs to be effective for our members and our community. So please feel free to reach out to them. Thank y'all very much. And thank you to the Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro for their presenting sponsorship, and to 3HC and a Crown Screening. We've got great events coming up. Business After Hours is always the third Thursday of the month. We've got an elected officials barbecue. Look, guys, we just want to feed y'all. We're not going to ask you for anything. That is our local and state delegation and a State of the Military event coming up. So thank y'all for being here this morning.